So the judges are still deliberating, and what a job they have got. So while they're making their decisions, it's time for the question and answer session. Thank you to those of you who have already sent through questions through the app. If you'd like to do so, please just go to the app, click on the question and answer session in the agenda, and you can just post your question through there. Let me just reintroduce everyone so you know who we've got here. First of all, Chief Executive of Digital Isle of Man, Lyle Wraxall. We have Head of Banking and Fiduciaries at Finance Isle of Man, Paul Blake. We have Head of Business Development at Business Isle of Man, Kirree Gooberman. Head of Supervisory Practices and Innovation Strategy at the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority, Ros Lynch. And Director of Environment at the Department for Environment, Food and Agriculture, Ken Milne. So thank you so much to everybody. I just want to start with you, Lyle. And we've heard so much about innovation today. And I just wonder from your point of view, how you see digital innovation, especially shaping the future of the Isle of Man economy.
Certainly. Firstly, let me apologise for Kurt, who's supposed to be here today. He wanted to spare you his coughs down a microphone, so unfortunately you've got me instead. Innovation, particularly in digital, is key. If we don't innovate, we're not doing anything new. Certainly, when I came into this role 6 years ago, it was an aspiration to grow the areas that we already have, but also to look to create new areas. Since then, we've tried to create a new vertical. Every year, we've tried to put something new out there. Innovation is really what kind of drives what those new areas are going to be. And it's all very well saying, let's focus on AI, or let's focus on data, but what is that? And those are really difficult questions. How do you grow the economy with data? How do you grow the economy with AI? Those are quite complicated things to consider. Without innovation, without having the right kind of minds around the table, we can't do it. Now, we're really fortunate. We've got Kurt as our head of innovation, whose job it is, and it's not an easy job, to bring forward these grand ideas without being concerned about why we can't do things, without being prejudiced by anything that happens today. And actually, with that job, you get the answer no quite a lot, which is really, really difficult. He's fortunate. We've got another head of innovation in the FSA, so someone else to work with, and Paul also working with both those in what we call our FinTech Innovation Hub, and we're seeing some fantastic concepts come out of that. We also have a really strong board, I think, as all the agencies do, and they really support us in workshopping, brainstorming, and coming up with ways forwards as well. And that's what really helps create new products, new value propositions that we can go out to market with, and even test in events like this. So it's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Lyle. I should say, actually, if anyone's got a question and you want to do it the old school way, just wave your hand and we can get a microphone over to you. Paul, in your role overseeing banking and fiduciaries, what emerging trends are you currently prioritising to enhance financial services over here?
Yeah, thank you. There are lots of emerging trends in financial services. I think that's safe to say. And financial services has, I think, always been very innovative as a sector. I think certainly for us, our biggest sector, for example, in insurance, we've been working very hard in the insurtech space to make sure that we remain relevant on a global stage. We've brought together our employee benefits cluster. People may not realise, for example, within that space, 2/3 of all international trust-based pension schemes in the last 5 years were based in the Isle of Man. So that's a real sort of fantastic statistic, and that's something as a jurisdiction we should be very proud of. I think trends, I think ESG is a critical trend currently within financial services, not just within financial services, of course. It's at the forefront of boards throughout financial services and their considerations with their sort of director or fiduciary duties to consider ESG. AI, we've heard a lot about AI today. Financial services, I'm thinking particularly looking at the banking industry, for example. Can AI provide additional revenue streams for banking? Can it improve the customer experience? Can that customer experience be more personalized and more relevant using AI? And I think lastly, crypto, digital currencies, I think are still as relevant as ever. I think maybe they've come off the headline. Maybe AI is stealing a little bit of the thunder in terms of where maybe cryptocurrencies used to be. But we've got central banks thinking about central bank digital currencies, which I think is the next thing that may be coming down the line with that. And again, it's all really, really innovative, and financial service remains a very innovative sector.
It's really interesting, Paul, isn't it? We talked a little bit this morning about how people can find it daunting thinking about AI, but certainly with regards to finance, people are already using it and they've accepted it quite readily without even possibly realising.
Yeah, very much so. We've seen some fantastic demonstrations today of AI and how that dovetails with financial services and with the banking community. We all have our phone app for our banking, and a lot of that is AI derived. And I think that interaction with your financial services provider, I think AI will continue to make that more personalised and more frictionless.
Kirree, we did touch on this a little bit earlier, but I just wonder if you'd describe some of the key strategies that Business Isle of Man is implementing to attract and support new businesses to the island, and especially just thinking about clean tech.
We're currently developing 2 strategies at the moment, which is due to go to our board next week, actually, in terms of a local economy strategy and also an engineering manufacturing strategy. And interestingly, through both of those is that sustainable sort of theme right the way through, which is going to be so key moving forward into the future. So in terms of supporting businesses in these sectors, we can support businesses in the sectors such as export sectors through that concierge sort of service when we're looking at businesses moving in, right the way through to grant support, but each is done on an individual basis. But for clean tech, obviously it's such a broad and wide spectrum. Really, it depends on the business, but it is that personal approach really with businesses looking in. And one of the key things that we do also is working with the existing businesses that we have here, really looking at helping them to grow and develop and looking at new business models and how that is sustainable for the future.
And I guess that, again, gives that reassurance that at the heart, no matter what technological advances you have, it is still all about people.
Yeah, it definitely is all about people. And that is a key theme that runs through both of those strategies as well. Skills comes up regularly as the top number 1 issue that businesses face when they're growing, and helping businesses to access skills and what that looks like for the future is really key.
Ros, I wonder if you could tell us from a regulatory perspective how the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority is fostering innovation while also ensuring compliance and crucially protection for investors.
Thank you very much. So I think I might take that in, talk about our internal innovation and then the external element. So interestingly, throughout today, I've really listened to some of the data stories, and particularly, Professor, I've been listening to how you have created your data structure. We have spent 4 years doing that, and now we're actually at, I wouldn't say they're at the end of it, but we're getting some phenomenal data, trends, analysis, which obviously then we can identify risks within the market and then take intervention, hopefully as early as possible, to prevent risk to consumers and things like that. We have built all those foundations, and clearly now that we have quite significant data sets sitting within our environment, and obviously some of the finalist products today were of real interest because now we have quite considerable amounts of data. Overlaying some of that technology on top of it would actually create even greater analysis, trends, efficiency. So really excited to see what comes from today. So from our internal journey, I think, we're doing a huge amount. And obviously we launched an AML system just after Christmas, which again, we consume a lot of data in advance of our Moneyval work and just helping us to risk assess how risks are in the Isle of Man. So that's been really helpful. And then from an external perspective, obviously working closely with the Finance Agency and the Digital Agency, in particular with the Innovation Hub, that's something that we're really proactively encouraging participants to come and talk to us. We're really keen on early conversation. I think one of our USPs as a jurisdiction is you have access to the regulator much easier than you would in some of the other jurisdictions. And I think that's something that we really want to foster within our ecosystem, help to bring new firms, new entrants, and support them through that. Sitting under the hub, we have the observatory, which is where we bring in people who have products which are ecosystem supporting, or perhaps they're not sitting within regulation in our perimeter. If they were in our perimeter, they'd be sitting in our regulatory sandbox. And those are sort of really important initiatives that we think are hoping to support growth in the island. But obviously, those two environments help us manage risk and review risk on that basis. And
comes back to the recurring theme that we've heard a lot, and Mike was talking about earlier, and it's all about trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, our frameworks are designed not necessarily to deal with, how people apply technology. It's all about behaviours and the activity in which they do. And they need to trust our frameworks, and we need to trust people's behaviours and how they actually execute that. And I think that's important, that our framework has the ability to be tech agnostic.
Thank you, Ros. Ken, with your focus on the environment, what would you say are some of the most pressing environmental challenges facing the Isle of Man today, and how is your department addressing those?
Yeah, it's a good question. The Isle of Man is very similar to the rest of the British Isles. We are under pressure for the wildlife, our biodiversity. There's declining numbers of species, there's endangered species, lots of challenges there. So as a department, we are addressing those as best we can, but we're working very closely with partners and key stakeholders across the island. On island, we are doing lots of things like designating our land, special areas of scientific interest to protect those habitats. We are doing peatland restoration programme where we're working with partners to try and protect those areas and sort of restore some of that peatlands that may be lost in previous years. Working with some key partners like the farmers, our agri-environment scheme, where we're trying to protect those farmlands for food production, but also habitats as well, so we can have some biodiversity in the future. Those are the sort of things we're doing on shore, on land, but we're also doing lots of things in the marine environment as well. We have 10 marine nature reserves around the island, where we have limits on what we've done in there, so we don't have dredging, fisheries, etc., to protect the seabed. We have, working with the fisheries sector, we have long-term management plans to make those fishery sectors sustainable. And we're also looking at blue carbon, the carbon sequestration potential of our seabed as well. And we've recently closed off a couple of areas for dredging of fisheries on the west coast to allow the carbon sequestration, so we can research that and see what the benefits are and introduce some new sustainable fishery practices such as creel fishery for langoustine. So there's lots of opportunities as well as those challenges. But the key thing is we work with partners. We've launched a first tranche of biodiversity action plans recently on our Biosphere Isle of Man website. That's very much identifying what the priorities are, what our action plans are to deliver on those.
And we heard Sarah Mercer talk so passionately about the Isle of Man's biosphere status earlier. And I guess part of it is just letting the public know what they have here.
We're so lucky here. It's so rich. And, biosphere is at the heart of everything. It's about enriching the environment for people to live here, to visit, to work, and also at the same time protecting those habitats, protecting that wildlife and environment as well.
Okay, some of the questions from the audience. There have been a few presentations that talk about creating corporate digital ID and the ability to share this. Do you feel there would be an overarching use case to implement this centrally at the company's registry as the source of truth, which can then be shared to other financial service entities as their digital ID package? Who'd like to answer that one? Paul.
Looks like it's me. I think the long-term answer to that might be yes. I think there needs to be progress in terms of connectivity between the registry and other parts of government, between the registry and other departments. Again, the FSA will have a key role to play in that. But I think, certainly technology is driving improvement and efficiencies, and we certainly need to take advantage of that.
Ros, any thoughts?
No, I think from a regulatory perspective, there's no reason that digital IDs cannot be accepted. There's nothing that prohibits that within our frameworks. So if and when it happens, it'll fit in perfectly.
Okay, another question. Did you want to?
I was just going to say, I think, whilst we can leverage technology to make companies' registry better, and we absolutely should, there's plenty of opportunity to that. It's doing it in the right way. There's lots of different options out there. Part of our role in the agencies is not just to, make decisions about what the right thing is. We've got to listen to industry. We've got to work with them. We've got to hold events like this and work with businesses about what the best solutions are. I think we all recognise that there are some things we can do better. It's finding the right partners to drive that forward with.
And sorry, just last picking on Lyle upon that, I think that's a really good point. And I think certainly overlaid in that as well is making sure that we are in lockstep with sort of international norms as well, and just making sure that we're not an outlier.
Okay, here's a really interesting question. What do you feel is the biggest blocker to successfully implementing innovative solutions, such as the ones we've seen today? Is it similar across the different areas? And is there a common solution that can be worked towards together? Lyle.
Okay. This is going to be controversial. So I see an opportunity for us to be able to leverage some of these ideas more effectively. And again, I think we've got a good example today of government coming together and working across different departments. And to me, that's where the magic happens. The more that we can do this, and this isn't around any constructs around government or anything like that, it's just when we bring the right people together in these environments and we all know where we want to go, we all see the same opportunity, we will find ways to make things happen. And they will happen more quickly than if sometimes we go more traditional routes. That's the opportunity, and I say that is consistent across every category that we've seen today.
Yeah, sorry. I was talking to the professor in the break, and I think, our size can be an advantage. We can be very nimble, and I think as Lyle said, that sort of collegiate and collaborative working together between certainly the teams in our department, the Department for Enterprise, but also with the regulator as well. And we're doing that now. I think Lyle mentioned it before about with the Innovation Hub. That's a place where we in the finance agency and with Lyle's team and with the FSA have come together to facilitate innovation. I don't think it's maybe not government's place to do the innovation most of the time. I think what we've got to do is create the environment and the framework where innovation can flourish.
Kirree?
Yeah, I think just from our side, it really is all about collaboration, actually that opportunity as an agile sort of state in terms of getting people together and into the room together. I think we've seen that certainly through the Innovation Challenge and working with the finalists, actually, that we can get people into the room together. And actually, that's where it's really exciting, those conversations that come when you put the right people into the room and allow them to sort of test what could and can be done.
Well, that brings me on to what is probably going to be the final question, and that is, how valuable has it been working with the finalists and just seeing the solutions progress and come into fruition? Obviously, you've had 2 years' experience of this sort of thing now, Lyle.
It's incredibly valuable, so for a number of reasons, and not just to us as the agencies, but hopefully to the businesses that we have on the island as well. It stretches our ambition. Listening to different ideas, different approaches helps us think differently, which is really important. We learn, and as I said this morning, we have quite innovative ideas and concepts ourselves, and it allows us to test those with people in the market in a safe space and in a collaborative environment. So that is really important. And I'm going to touch back on what I just talked about as well. As we learn to collaborate across government more and more, this collaboration carries on after the challenge as well. And we're finding, as Paul says, it's not a place to do the innovation necessarily. We're there to influence, to corral, to create the environment. And we need access to all parts of government to be able to do that effectively. And we need to leverage our partnerships with all of the on-island industry too.
Paul?
Yeah, sure. It's a huge privilege. It genuinely is. I think every entrant today has been absolutely fascinating. Some of the stuff is, like mind-blowing. It really is. So it's, but from a personal point of view, absolutely a privilege. I think what the Isle of Man has to offer, certainly, I'm originally not from here. You probably guessed by my accent, but it's my home, and I'm really delighted to be here. And I think the Isle of Man offers a unique place in the world. It's a very entrepreneurial society. We've got a government that's very in tune with business. We want to, we want to innovate. I think, as we said, you look back, you look at the Lexi wheel. Nothing to do with financial services, but you look at that was at its time hugely innovative, and we've done that throughout the ages, I think. So bringing that back to today, just a real privilege to see innovation in action.
And Ros, in a couple of sentences, could you sum up what you've seen today?
I think it's just been incredibly impressive, and I think all of the finalists should be so proud. There are so many ideas out there that I see that we can ingest ourselves, we can learn from, we can collaborate with people. And I really like the fact that this year we've added in the biosphere element, because actually, what did you say earlier? Why not this sort of thing? Some of these solutions out there are so positive, will have such a good impact, and actually they make you feel good when you're thinking, you see that story. And I think we should be starting to embrace some of those. I was really impressed.
Kirree, your final thoughts?
Just what a privilege, really, to have worked with the finalists this year. It has been fascinating, it's been exciting, and to see real-world problems actually have a solution that can make a difference, not just to our island, but wider as well, has been incredible.
And Ken, your thoughts?
My final thought is probably about UNESCO Biosphere. It's all about encompassing everything we do, people, the environment, our businesses, and it's about learning from each other and sharing that knowledge across the world for other biospheres.
Do you know what? It really does feel like there's so much to be optimistic about, which is absolutely fantastic. A big thank you to our panel, Ken, Lyle, Kirree, Ros, and Paul. Thank you so much.